Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Family Scuba. I have been thinking about making this video for quite some time. Somewhat of a response to questions I get all the time about the training that I went through. I know I kind of left that pretty open from my Sidewinder training videos. So I wanted to go through the TDI website, the training outline, I guess, and then talk about some of the bullet points they have in there and my experiences. I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly. I don't want this to be a super long video, but we'll just get right to it. So again, just going through the TDI training outline. As far as course prerequisites, you need to be at least 18, 50 log dives, have TDI advanced nitrox and deco procedures, which I had. I guess I should have mentioned that when I did my CCR course, I went straight to the air diluent deco step, I guess. I skipped just the regular CCR one and went to the air diluent deco CCR class because I had the open circuit TDI advanced nitrox and deco procedures certification already. In any case, I believe it's pretty much the same, other than a few dives and a few decompression dives that you have to complete and some skills during those dives. I think that's the really only difference, but we'll go through it. As far as the what you can expect to learn section, a lot of this is covered under the online class portion, and then some of it you're going to go over it again with your instructor. Some instructors like to really go over it thoroughly. Others have their own experiences they want to maybe pass on to you during the lecture portion of the training, and others might just stick to to this guideline. My instructor basically passed on a lot of her experiences and real world diving things that she could pass along and teach us, which I think goes a long way over simply just going down a checklist of things to cover. But again, the whole section of what you can expect to learn, just expect to really go through all of that during the book or online portion, and then have it kind of hammered in with your instructor. As far as some of the skills, here going down the list, all open water dives must be between 30 and 40 meters. 30 feet and 130 feet. All of our dives were. It's like every other class that you do it requires either deep diving or decompression diving. You're going to start out shallower and then work your way down to deeper depths, more complicated dives. 2 dives must be deeper than 100 feet. PO2 not to exceed manufacturer's recommendations or working limit of 1.3 bars. I was instructed to maintain a 0.7 PO2 above 60 feet essentially, and then anything below 60 feet you want to maintain a 1.2, and expect your instructor to really be hounding you on that, and rightfully so. It's really important to maintain a proper PO2 and to be very diligent in monitoring and maintaining that, because these units do work really, really well, and it can lead to some complacency, and ultimately I think that's what ends up killing a lot of CCR divers. All dives must be completed within CNS percent limits. You're going to get they're going to show you a CNS chart. It basically tells you how much time you can spend breathing a specific PO2. I might throw that up on the top corner here just so you can see it. But essentially you're going to stay within those limits. And you're going to talk about reasons for that. Safety stops to be conducted within 3 minutes or 20 feet. So basically you have to work on your buoyancy. You're going to work on buoyancy. You have to maintain that 20-foot stop essentially. And how you work on that is going to really depend on your instructor. They may have you shoot a SMB, a DSMB from, the bottom, and then use that as kind of your 20-foot marker. Or you may have a point of reference or something like that. Again, it's going to be really dependent on the instructor and the type of diving that you're going to be doing during the training, or locations, I should say. When the user opts for an automatic diluent ADV fitted by the manufacturer, additional skills such as regular diluent gauge monitoring and addition control must be emphasized. So we did an exercise where I had to manually activate the ADV, or the automatic diluent valve. We actually did 3 different methods of introducing gas into the loop for, to dilute the PO2, or just to flush out the loop in general. So you'll practice pressing the ADV manually. You'll practice sucking the loop down until it creates a vacuum when you inhale, which will activate the ADV, kind of like a regular second stage. And then the third method was inhaling, blowing the gas out, inhaling on a bailout regulator, and then exhaling that gas back into the loop. Different reasons for doing it. I won't get into that here because, like I said, I want to try to keep this video to a manageable time frame, but you'll talk about that in class and why you would use one method over the other. Obviously, you don't want to inhale a really high PO2 and exhale it, and then go through that process several times until the PO2 is diluted enough where it's considered a breathable gas. So you would go through another procedure to flush it out. But again, not to get too in depth with that, but again, you'll practice separate or different ways of introducing diluent into the loop. Calculate offboard gas, 1.6 cubic feet per minute usage to cover stress situations. Not sure what they're talking about as far as offboard gas goes, but you'll talk about bailout and what's appropriate for the type of diving you'll be doing, and how to calculate that. All dives to be completed with an appropriate constant PO2 decompression tables. Again, you're going to get hounded. Be prepared to be hounded on your PO2. Monitor that PO2. Maintain a proper PO2. We in our class we were beat up about it and checked and tested on it all the time. So be prepared for that. Students must do 1 bailout from depth on open circuit to include simulated decompression. Again, that's specific to the air diluent deco. may not necessarily be to a brand new rebreather diver who has not been through the advanced nitrox deco procedures, but you will have to do a simulated bailout, and surface, and then deal with all the issues that come along with that, like still having to exhaust gas that's expanding in the loop, even though you don't have the loop in your mouth, because that will affect your buoyancy, as well as your dry suit, and managing your BC at the same time. So things to think about, but definitely will be one of the skills that you'll have to complete. Pre-dive checks utilizing the TDI pre-flight checklist or manufacturer required checklist. We were given the manufacturer checklist, and then over the course of the class, which was like 8 days, I believe, 7 or 8 days, you really start to refine that checklist. And our instructor had us make our own. So we had to come to class one day with our own, and it had to encompass like the most important aspects of building a rebreather and making sure that it's ready to go and that it's going to be safe. And that really depends on the person, but generally you're going to end up with anywhere between 8 and 12 steps over like 50 50 steps that are part of the manufacturer checklist. A whole nother can of worms to open up and dissect there, but just know that you'll be probably creating your own checklist, and that's, I think, primarily to make you really think about what you're doing, what's important, and why you're doing it. So moving on to the next one here, unit buildup. Again, kind of goes along with that whole checklist. The reason for creating a checklist is you have to really get to know that unit. You have to know how it works, know why it does what it does, when it's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. When I received my unit, it was in a brand new box, fresh from the manufacturer. I got a KISS Sidewinder. And my instructor, we spent one whole afternoon taking apart the entire unit, down to the last screw, down to the last O-ring, and then putting it back together. Again, you want to really become extremely familiar with that piece of equipment. You want to know it in and out, not only to be able to diagnose it, but also because it really gives you an understanding of what's going on with it when you're using it. And if you know what's happening, then you can, in real time, figure out what the problem is if you're having a problem. And we'll talk about some of the problems and some of the fixes for it that are part of the skills of doing a rebreather class here shortly, I think. Scrubber packing. You're going to get some instruction on how to pack your specific scrubber. We packed it every single time we went diving. It was a huge waste of sorb, but again, it's to build in repetition, build in some muscle memory, and just to get that guidance while you're in the class that you're doing it correctly and not having any issues, because you can overpack them, you can underpack them, and you don't want to get any channeling or CO2 buildup because it's too hard to breathe through. All things that'll be discussed in the class, but let's see, demonstrate correct pre-dive planning procedures. Again, that all comes down to everything from, packing the sorb, what type of dive am I going to do? How much time do I have on my sorb? Do I need to repack it? Reasons why I should repack it, best practices, when I can maybe reuse what I have left as far as my stack time. Things, all of those things are going to be discussed, and reasons to do one thing over another, and what the best practice is and what the safest route really is. Again, not to get into it too much, but at the end of the day, if there's any doubt over whether or not you should replace your scrubber, you should just replace it. $20 worth of sorb isn't worth a near miss or a possible death just because you didn't want to throw away $20 worth of scrubber. Anyhow, like I said, all of that will be discussed in the class. Demonstrate correct pre-dive planning. I already said that. Mouthpiece familiarity drills. I'm not sure what they are referring to here on this list. I can tell you that the way I assembled my rebreather, my DSV, diver supply valve, to be specific, everything is oriented so that all of the clips and fittings are all facing up, so I know which direction it goes. Part of the unit buildup is talking about the mushroom valves and the direction of flow, because that's all important. If it's flowing in the wrong direction, it could be bad. But as far as orientation goes, if that is what they're talking about, that's all going to be discussed again in detail during the build-up and multiple days of packing and repacking and putting assembling the unit. So simulated emergency procedures, including gas shutdown and loss of gas. So you'll practice drills involving the rising of PO2 and the dropping of PO2, and how to correct those problems, which tanks to shut off when and why, and basically how to continue running the unit even during one of those malfunctions that causes either a rising or uncontrollable rise of a PO2, and the unwanted lowering of the PO2 because you have either leaking ADV or your diluent is being introduced into the loop when you don't want it to. In any case, that really just involves shutting down the gas that's causing the issue, and then feathering valves. But you'll practice that underwater, and you'll talk in detail as to how to determine which one is which. Broken hoses. I don't know if they're talking about the loop hoses or like the feed hoses. I know on mine, and this wasn't so much discussed in the class, maybe because I was already set up this way, but I have hoses on both of my side mount tanks that I can connect to the rebreather to feed diluent. I also run a separate diluent tank that isn't as commonplace on this specific unit, but essentially I have redundancies for in the event that there is a damaged or broken hose or something like that. If your loop hose tears, your system's basically going to get flooded and you're going to bail out. So I'm assuming they're talking about just regular scuba hoses. In any case, let's see, flooded absorbent canister. So depending on the unit, if this isn't specifically about the Sidewinder, which is what I was trained on, depending on the unit, you may have the ability to dewater it. The Sidewinder does not have that option. However, I think a lot of people have found that you can put quite a bit of water in it before it really becomes an issue. All of the water just ends up going down the canisters and it falls into the counter lung and just sits in there, and really doesn't really cause a problem. I have accidentally left my DSV open while gearing up on a shore dive and put, like half a gallon of water in the rebreather. It stops working after that. You can't push air through it. So it's pretty much dive over at that point. Obviously, that would be a bailout situation if it occurred while underwater during a dive. But again, depending on your unit, you'll get options as far as how to handle that situation. And in carbon dioxide breakthrough, a lot of that is just discussing what the symptoms are and what to do. And I mean, it's pretty simple. You bail out. You go to open circuit, and then end the dive. So not a whole lot with that, but just learning the symptoms and how to prevent it really is going to be the main topic of the discussion there. Semi-closed mode. You can run this unit in semi-closed mode. I have once in real life. My computer, I think I had a bad battery because the computer read good voltage at the surface. Jumped in the water. It was pretty cold that day, not too long ago, as a matter of fact. And I don't know if it was the cold or just the battery gave out. I don't know. The battery voltage was good, and then the screen went completely dead. So I did run it on SCR mode. I think, and this is just my own personal opinion, I think you need a lot of time and a lot of practice running your CCR, knowing what it's doing, when it's doing it, before attempting to run your unit in SCR mode with no display. I had, I think, like 170 hours, maybe 175 at that point, and I had zero problems or concerns or worries about running it that way. And by the time I got to the surface, I had and changed the battery, I had a PO2 of like a 0.89 or 0.88, something like that. So again, they're going to teach you how to do it, but it's a bit concerning not being able to read your PO2. Again, something you'll work on, something you'll practice and discuss in detail, and it's pretty useful, especially in penetration diving, because I can tell you that I've been in some pretty scary situations where knowing that I could rely on the rebreather to keep me alive for many, many, many hours really makes it easier to just kind of take a moment and sit back for a second and relax and think things out before panic starts to set in. So Staying on the loop definitely is a huge advantage to coming off the loop. So definitely a skill worth learning. But again, I think you should really know your unit and have a lot of time staring at that screen before it's attempted in a real world situation. I think bailing out would probably be the better choice for most people. But in any case, we'll move on. Low oxygen drills, high oxygen drills, we talked about that as far as the shutdown drills go. Flooding the loop. If you do get some water in the loop itself, you'll hear a little bit of gurgling. I experimented with exhausting gas through my mouth a couple times, I should say. I think after the second time I gave up because I just let too much water in. And you can feel it when you're breathing. You can feel like a gurgling or like a fluttering in one of the loop hoses. So you'll practice getting that water out of there and basically pushing it back into the canister so that it goes down past the sorbent into the counter lung where it doesn't hurt anything. Electronics and battery failures. Again, it kind of goes with the semi-closed mode that you'll practice. And then properly execute the Ascent procedures for an incapacitated CCR diver. We've all done this. I think if you're at this point in your diving, you've done a buddy rescue, from 30, 40 feet or so. It's no different other than now you have another source of buoyancy to contend with. So aside from the BC and the dry suit, now you have a counter lung and CCR loop that's also expanding on the way up to deal with. So that's always an interesting one. Then we also did I think a body tow and a gear removal, which is a lot of fun when you're talking about tech divers and everything we have on us. So that should be interesting. Use of BCD /suit and effective management of loop breathing, volume for buoyancy control. So again, it's managing all three, your BCD, your dry suit, and the loop. All of those are going to be affecting buoyancy, and you have to find a balance. If you think about what everything is doing, keep it simple. I don't feel like I had a really hard time with it because I kept it simple. On descent, I put just enough air in my dry suit to take the squeeze out, and I breathed in and activated the ADV just enough to get a full breath in, and then the rest is compensated by the BC, and no more, no less, and everything works pretty well. When you start hammering down on one thing or the other, everything gets all goofy, and you find yourself having to inhale, exhale, put air in the BC, take air out of the BC. Too much air in the dry suit causes a lot of other issues, and just keep it simple, just enough in all three to maintain buoyancy and to have everything working as it should be, and keeping all the volumes to a minimum, again, while maintaining that balance, and it's not that hard. It will take some practice, even if you find it to be not so difficult. It still will take practice to really perfect or get down really well. But just don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Stop at 10 to 20 feet on descent for leak bubble check. So you'll do that on every single dive. You're going to do a bubble check before starting to dive. I can see pretty much my entire unit because everything's on my sides. So I do solo dive and do my own bubble checks, but generally in a class you'll have your dive buddies do a quick bubble check, do a 360, and then move on with the dive. Electronic system monitoring PO2 levels, set point, and switching set points. So your computer that is hardwired to the rebreather, if you don't have your backup hardwired, you're going to have to manually change the set points. I had my Shearwater set to automatically switch, but I found that because I didn't have to switch it on descent, I always forgot to switch it on ascent because it doesn't, it switches back to 0.7. However, most of the diving that I'm doing, I'm going into deco, and the computer switches back to a 0.7, which is not where I'm setting my PO2 when I'm in deco. So I turned that off, and I have since just manually done it so that it matches more, the backup computer matches more closely the main primary computer. If you have two hardwired computers, no problems there. It's you don't have to worry about that. But you will get harped on that in class. Manual control of set point if electronic controlled CCR is not used. Mine is a manual MCCR or mechanical CCR. So it was all monitoring and pressing the button when necessary. And you'll find that the deeper you go, the less pressing you'll have to do because the depth kind of helps out with the maintaining the PO2. I find that at shallower depths, you're hitting the button more. Use of lift bag, delayed surface marker buoys. Again, this is probably more so for the diluent, air diluent deco portion of this, but they may have you shoot a bag, just as practice for when you do the deco class, and also if you are doing pretty well in class. I found that some instructors like to throw some curveballs in there to kind of induce a little bit more stress. So you might get that. Proper execution of dive within all predetermined limits. So basically, plan your dive and dive your plan. And if you do that, then you're doing okay. Constant loop volume management kind of goes back to what I mentioned about the, just keeping it simple as far as adding gas to all three of your items you have to maintain. Minimal loop volumes in all of them to maintain buoyancy and to maintain the unit operating correctly and to maintain a good, proper breathing rhythm, and you're fine. But again, as you ascend, it's going to, gas is going to expand. So even in the loop, you have to, it's a little bit trickier on ascent because you have to release gas, and then how much gas is enough, right? I found that releasing maybe half as much as I think I need, and then checking to see if I have a full breath in there, and if I have more than a full breath, then I let out more. And you just keep doing that until you have your minimum loop volume. Cell remove and replace. Again, I did all of that when I first took the unit apart. Everything came out of it, and everything was put back in it. Dive maintenance of unit. You'll talk about cleaning and maintaining it, and sterilizing, and removing the water from hoses. All of that stuff. Mouthpiece strip and rebuild. The DSV, depending on the type you have, can be fairly complicated or pretty simple, but it still has to be assembled correctly. Even the simple ones can be installed incorrectly. If you install the inner sleeve upside down, the exhale, the water drain will not line up correctly, and either you'll let water in or it won't drain out, or you'll have issues. So pay attention to how things come apart, put it back together correctly. Your instructor should harp on you about that. Again, comes down to that unit is keeping you alive underwater, and you wanna really know how it works and how to disassemble it and reassemble it correctly. Replacing batteries. Mine had one single battery in the Shearwater controller computer. Basically, it's just a monitor because it doesn't control anything. So you talk about that, but you should be pretty proficient at that already. Demonstrate comfort swimming on the surface and at depth carrying one bailout decompression cylinder. Nothing special about that, just swimming. Comes down to physical health. Demonstrate ability to drop and retrieve one bailout decompression cylinder. This might, again, just be specific to the air diluent deco class. Might not be might not be done for just your typical CCR class. But if you do it, you basically have to drop a cylinder, maintain buoyancy, not get too light or too heavy on pickup, and off you go. Demonstrate the ability to deploy SMB or liftbacks solo and as a member of a team. We talked about that. Not everyone always deploys a SMB. Generally, if part of a team, and you'll discuss the reasons, pros and cons for that. Demonstrate appropriate reaction to gas hemorrhage from manifold or first stage. SPG and primary regulator. Again, a lot of that is going to be basically boom drills, what they call boom drills, gas shutdown drills, stuff like that. And you'll do that all while maintaining buoyancy, swimming, standing still, or just kind of floating in the water. At 20, 30, 40, whatever feet they have you do it in. It's generally done in shallow water, so don't worry too much about that. Demonstrate appropriate reaction to simulated free flow. Again, gas shutdown drills, depending on your instructor. They may show you a card that says you're free flowing, and you have to decide what you're going to start shutting down. They may be specific about what's free flowing, and you have to shut down that specific thing. But it's essentially, again, a boom drill where you start shutting everything down and then figuring out what is the problem and reopening valves. Demonstrate appropriate reaction. I already said that. Buddy breathing deco gas for at least 1 minute. Again, this is specific to the air diluent deco class. It's breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, give the next, pass the regulator. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, pass the regulator. It's a huge pain in the butt. If you have somebody who doesn't like holding their breath, it makes it more complicated, but it's not a big deal. Oxygen breather mode at less than 20-foot stop. Again, I did this at 20 feet for my deco, and I swam around in 20 feet of water, simulating oxygen rebreather mode. Basically, you shut your diluent off, and you're running the entire unit just on your O2 bottle, because at 20 feet, 100% oxygen has a PO2 of 1.6, so it's still a breathable gas. Not a super difficult drill. Your rebreather is basically doing everything it's supposed to be. You just have to understand the concept of it and when it can be done and when it's safe to do so. That was the last one. I hope this wasn't too long of a video. I was trying to keep it as short as possible. But those are all the drills and skills that I did. and what you will have to do if you take this course, or any CCR course, really. Hope this helps. If you have any questions, please leave a comment and I will get to them. Thanks again for watching, and safe diving.